Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Thomson Reuters, the Answer Company. The Division Championship Minnesota Twins are looking to go all the way to the World Series in 2024. Bolstered by inspirational shortstop Carlos Correa, a healthy Brian Buxton, and rookie phenom Royce Lewis, plus a pitching staff led by Pablo Lopez and an outstanding bullpen featuring Johan Duran, the Twins are the best bargain in the major leagues, and Target Field is the best venue in baseball. Sheridan Dulas & Kins, PA, a family and criminal defense law firm, has been serving clients in Dakota County and throughout Minnesota for over 40 years. Ranked a Tier 1 Best Law Firm by U.S. News and World Report every year since 2009, Sheridan Dulas & Kins are here to help you in your most difficult life circumstances. Established in 2007, 45th Parallel Spirits was among the first 50 micro-distilleries in the United States. Based in New Richmond, Wisconsin, all aspects of production occur at our facility. If you're interested in visiting and learning more about the 45th Parallel Distillery, please check our website and plan a visit to tour our facility and taste our spirits. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org.
Hello and welcome to Access to Democracy. Thank you for joining us. I'm Bill Raker, your host for this edition of the program. We have a fun guest with us today that I'm excited to talk about. But before I introduce him and let you meet him, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about this fellow that we have. He's a 3-time Midwest Emmy Award-winning actor. He's a vocalist. He's an author. We'll talk about one of his books here a little bit later. He's an educator. He's a community organizer. He's a speaker and a raconteur. In addition to that, he's energetic, multi-talented, inspiring, and entertaining. So with that, tell us, who is T. Mychael Rambo?
Oh, stop it. Stop thunderous applause, please. Who am I? Well, I am here with you today, Bill, and I am here with this amazing, on this set. I mean, just the idea that I'm here with you to talk about community, to talk about where we are in our country, where we are with ourselves, and where I am artistically, and in other areas of my life. So I'm delighted to be able to have been in the Twin Cities for 36 winters. I moved here from Texas.
Good move.
It's a good move. And I've remained here, and through all these years, I've maintained my sanity, my sense of humor, and my sobriety. I came here to get sober 36 years ago, and have remained in that state of better awareness. Not complete, but better awareness, yeah.
Well, now, I mentioned a few things that you do or have done, right? So let's have you tell us a little bit about each one of them. So you're an award-winning actor. What kind of roles have you played? What have you done in that arena?
Bill, that's really fascinating that you asked the question about what is the range of opportunities that I've had and been enlisted to present. Some of my first work in the Twin Cities came through film, actually. In the 90s, the Ice House movement, the tax credits that were given to film corporations to do films in Minnesota, like Jingle All the Way or Mighty Ducks, Grumpy Old Men 1 and 2, The Cure, Crossing the Bridge, I mean, I did probably about 8 or 9 feature films throughout that one decade. So that was my greatest claim to fame for me and my family members.
So you had roles in all those movies you just named.
Yeah, and national commercials like for Palmolive dish soap and for General Mills Puff biscuits and a host of things. So I've had the great pleasure of representing a broad range of businesses and corporations. I did a lot of corporate industrial work where I was enlisted to be a spokesperson for everyone from American Express that became Ameriprise to Thrivent now that's has changed its name. So I've had great good fortune. Some of the greatest things I've done through the Emmy that I've received have been through voice work. I've had a chance to be the narrator and the voice of a number of projects that have, I guess, earned the acknowledgement of a Midwest regional Emmy. So that would be things like North Star, which was a program done by Daniel Bergen from TPT that spoke to the journey and the kind of road of African Americans from Bonga and a host of other people who came through the Dred Scott decisions and there at Camp Snelling. So that program gave me an opportunity to lend my voice to the stories of those individuals. And then I did a piece for the Bell Museum that earned an Emmy. I voiced the stories of sesquicentennial estates around the country and what that sesquicentennial means and meant to Minnesota at the 150th year mark. And so I've done just really fun projects. I just recently did an audiobook for Kevin J. Anderson, who is the gentleman who translated the Dune books to movies. So he's written a new book with a guy named Jeffrey Morris called Persephone. And so I'm the voice that has audio voiced the entire book, which was a lot of pages. So it's been the gamut. So your question, not quickly answered, lets you know that I've been very fortunate to do a number of things that have allowed me to use my skills as an actor.
Well, that's what we want to hear about. We want you to share with our viewers some of your experiences and what it's like to have the opportunity to do the things that you've done. You know, Michael, before we went on camera, you and I were chatting, you said we're coming to the end of Black History Month and that you had been busy today and throughout the month. Any experiences that you've had this month that you'd like to share?
Well, I was really so fortunate to find myself in probably about 20 different schools throughout the month of February. I had a great set of experiences on the 10th of February, which was National African American Parent Involvement Day. So I went to 5 different schools on that day, read from the book that I wrote with Resmaa Menakem, a New York Times bestselling author, who wrote a book called My Grandmother's Hands, and together we created the complement, or the, I guess you would call it the complement to the main selling book called The Stories from My Grandmother's Hands, intended to be a story that steps further into his main piece of work, body of work, and looks at how to tell those messages to children. So I did stories for 5 different schools. That was a lot of fun. It was great to see children being engaged and asking wonderful questions and really finding that they could see themselves on the pages of a book for many of the students who had not always seen that in books that they had read or been open to.
So you're talking about the book, Michael, and I know you brought a copy with you.
did,
So let's show it to our viewers.
Lovely.
And tell us, you know, what this book is about and how it came about and what the intentions for it are.
Well,
you've talked a little bit about it, but I know there's more story to tell.
Yeah, well, the book, is fascinatingly enough, is not illustrated, but the images are painted by a gentleman named Leroy Campbell, an international and nationally renowned African-American artist. So all the pages show his incredible work. And what's fascinating is that each of these pictures are actually, they're actually paintings. So the paintings the pictures that you see here aren't illustrations done on a computer. They're actually done as large paintings.
Like painted on a canvas.
On a canvas,
Right.
that's right. And
Okay.
so as Resmaa and I went through and changed different parts of the stories, he would have to change and alter. Like in this one, where my index finger is a wheelchair, because we want the readers to understand that all ableness, other able, and also the children who may not be, but know others who are, have a place in our story, our collective story. So each 2 pages in this book gives the reader a chance to learn and understand the stories of African-American grandmothers. And each 2-page kind of couplet, if you will, gives a different name to a different grandmother. And the intent for us is to ask the reader, the guardian, the parent, the sibling that's reading the book, to become familiar with the pages first, and then to recognize that as we journey through each of those couplets, those 2 pages that dedicate itself to a particular grandmother's name, that we come to realize that black and brown bodies, African bodies, enslaved some 500 years ago, found themselves when they were bound up and traveled the transatlantic slave trade, they found themselves in places where they didn't speak the language that was theirs, but they spoke the language of the enslavers. So when we look at people who look with skin complexion like mine, well, they speak Spanish. Because during the slave trade, the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Dutch, the British, left not only the enslaved Africans on the continent and other places, they left them with their language. And so we want to pay homage and honor that language and also those bodies that had that experience. And so every 2 pages we'll have abuela, we have oma, a host of names that are names found in the languages of Dutch and the Portuguese and etc. So
What a great way to keep that culture alive and keep it going. Now, what was the inspiration for this book?
Well, the inspiration, Resmaa, as I mentioned, Resmaa Menakem wrote a New York Times best-selling book called My Grandmother's Hands, which was a way of deconstructing racialized trauma for those who are looking at ways and access to share with others, but more importantly, to import to themselves on how to heal trauma and how to heal themselves and how to journey in a way that will give them more sure footing in everyday life, and also as they do the process of wellness. Because the book allowed people who read it to have strategies and techniques and approaches to having the discussion and having ways to dismantle and unpack what they're dealing with, but also to recognize that through trauma, we must know that there must be joy. Because we wouldn't know trauma if we didn't know joy. That's the contrast. And so that book gave him a reason to want to give children a chance to have that lesson in a less complex way, but in a magical way like you find in the children's book.
T. Mychael, have one more question
Yeah.
about the book, and then we want to get on to some other things because we've got a lot to talk about and a limited time here today. The original art for the book, is that on display anywhere? Where is that?
Well, Resmaa actually purchased every single painting that's in the book, and that's his intention at some point to develop a way to share the book and the paintings in an interactive, curated space that allows participants or those who are the viewers and the listeners to journey through the paintings and perhaps stand on 2 footprints that open up a recording that might be my voice or someone else's reading the pages, and then having the contact and the connection, the communication with the image, hearing the voice, and plant it in front of the picture, the painting.
Well, I hope I have an opportunity sometime to see that original art on display.
Yeah. Well, I'll have my people call your people.
You know, that sounds like a plan. Now, T. Mychael, I titled this program, this interview with you for our TV audience, Onward with Gratitude and Purpose. And that's your phrase, not mine.
Yeah.
What does that mean? How did you come up with that?
Well, pardon me. It's interesting. I end most of my emails and correspondence with Onward with Gratitude and Purpose. I recognize that one of the things that human beings require to meet their greater yet to be is to have a purpose, an intention, a reason for waking up in the morning. You know, some of the most courageous things any human being can do is just to put their feet on the ground, to leave a bed supine and stand upright and acknowledge that they have a space on the planet that they are worthy and deserving of. And so I think by asking anyone who sees that signature line, onward, that's what our purpose is to push onward. And intention is to have it. If your intention each day is just to smile at 2 people, it doesn't have to be major. We're not talking about creating Rome. But I want people to realize that they have within them what my grandfather taught me as a 5-year-old boy, the most important 10 2-letter words. If it is to be, it is up to me. Yeah. And when in that phrasing, he allowed me to recognize at a young age that it's not your job to like me. It's my job to like me. It's my job to recognize my purpose, and it's my job to be the person who speaks to what I need and finds the way to get what we need. No one does it alone. And it's up to me to find the resource and the individuals who connect with me and allow me to be my best self. And so that's kind of what I'm aiming for.
Well, there's just such a great message and inspiration embedded in that simple phrase of onward and up with purpose.
Yeah.
Gratitude and purpose.
Yeah, you know, and then gratitude is something that's really fascinating. I think for me, as a person in recovery and as a person who's traversed, as I mentioned, addiction and being unhoused, that the simplest of things are the things we find most complex and most difficult to address and most difficult to state, to name. You know, I think that's why often the gender roles, being what they are in our country and our culture, have imposed ways that just to say "I love you," a simple phrase, is very challenging in cultures where there are embedded roles of patriarchy or whatever, misogyny, or a host of other different sorts of ways that men exist in the world, taking up a lot of space. So we kind of find ourselves not willing and not wanting to name things that might appear to make us less than, weaker, kind of not a man, a guy thing. So, you know, I just think that it's really important that we speak up to what we want and ask what we need in life. And so in moments when I said simple phrases, if we can just say what we feel and just give ourselves permission to host ourselves well. I use that in my public speaking when I say to people, host yourself well. In any situation, you know, we would do, like you, I know you would do it, certainly, Bill, because I know I've come to know you somewhat well in our few encounters. If I came to your home, you'd make sure I had the chilled, coolest, best water, the best seat, the finest china, all those things. But we don't do that for ourselves. And so I really want everyone to remember that if we host ourselves well, our days would be smoother and brighter and better. And so that's kind of my purpose for doing some of these things.
Well, as you talk, we learned that your days and your life is really full.
It is.
I mean, and it's well-rounded. You've got so many things going on. You are influencing so many people, addressing so many issues. What's your gyroscope? What keeps you focused on balance and motivated to move forward?
Wow. You know, I really believe that my litmus, my compass, my true north is recognizing where I've been. There's an image in the Akan language of West Africa and Ghana, and it's called Sankofa. It's a bird, it's a great, magnificent bird whose breastplate pushes forward, thrust out toward what is its future. Yet at the same time, its neck, beak, and face is turned backwards, looking at where it's been. And I think that being able to look back and recognize where I've been helps me and helps plant me firmly and gratefully in the now. You know, so my compass and my true north also is the fact that I'm from Rambo, Texas. My family settled.
There's a community, a city, Rambo, Texas.
It's a community now. Needless to say that after enslavement, formerly enslaved were not welcome to live next to those who enslaved them. So all throughout Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, many freedmen towns were settled. And my family, who resided, I don't even think I would say reside, that's very generous, but who were present on the Rambo plantation, Colonel Gail Rambo, Rambeaux.
Ah, the French side.
And so when emancipation came, they, unlike many others who went north, ended up going south for some reason. I guess that's part of why I am who I am. And ended up in Texas, ended up in Cass County, Texas, right above Dallas, right above a smaller city called Marshall, and near another large city, Shreveport. So it's in that east corner of Texas. And so my family are Rambos from Rambo. So I'm very pleased. They dropped the H and the EAUX, bought a vowel like Wheel of Fortune, and now we're Rambos. You know,
you have a community named after you.
Yeah, we do. And it still
rather
exists.
than you named after the community.
Right, exactly.
How about
And I use that example not to be braggadocious, but just to say that my great blessing that keeps me guided and really grounded is I come from a space where I can go to a cemetery with cameos of images of pictures that look like me. I don't know if you've been to the older cemeteries where the tombstone actually has pictures carved like cameos of the person who's entombed.
I've seen those.
And so I can go through that and see great-grandparents and aunts and uncles that I look like that. I have stories. I have a map. And so many of our children, so many of us don't have a map, don't have any sense of where they've been, and have even less of an idea of where they're going. But for me, when I became addicted and an active alcoholic, I realized that story, that lesson, that life, that map allowed me, like anyone who uses a map, if you get lost, a map will help you find yourself. If you get lost, that map will guide you somewhere else that you may not have noticed. And if you have a map, most often you have a ledger that says this inch is 5 miles. So I have these lessons, these black pearls of wisdom that have helped me navigate the map. And so I was able to summon up the Sankofa and look forward based on what had been behind me. And it's never behind me because energy never ceases to exist. What once was, it still is. So it still keeps me buoyant and moored in something better.
So this bird is the Sankofa?
Sankofa.
Is that the
That's correct
Sankofa?
pronunciation.
This wonderful African bird, legendary bird, looking back.
Correct.
T. Mychael, let's look back a little bit.
Okay.
And share with us a couple of things. One, an experience or something that you did that you're most proud of and you felt most gratified and rewarded for doing.
Okay.
And then I'll ask you, do that, and then I'll ask you the second question.
All right, very good. Well, I can give you that pretty quickly.
Okay.
I recall Sheila Livingston, who was the education and community engagement staff person at the Guthrie Theater, gave my name to the first, they're called the first team to contact me because something was happening in Minneapolis. So I get a phone call, and this person says, I'm a member of the first team for the President of the United States. And we unite that. I was convinced someone was pulling my leg, and the person called back and said, I need you not to hang up. That's the first thing.
This is not a catfish.
Right, exactly. Anyway, the long and the short is, turns out that Sheila gave my name to be the person who would sing the National Anthem for President Obama. And I remember that my mother, when I shared with her that was in my future in a week from now, she wept like a baby. You know, my mother remembers lack of access to things by paper bag tests or straight combs tests. You know, that in the South where we were, if you were darker than a paper sack, you weren't admitted. If a comb didn't fall smoothly through your hair, you couldn't gain access. Certain things that brought brown and black bodies closer to whiteness, if you were there, you had greater access than others who were not. And so I remember the stories of her not being able, and my grandparents not being able to vote or what they went through. And so the idea of their lineage, their seed, meeting, singing for the president was very, very powerful. And that, for me, was a magnificent moment until I got to the podium, ladies and gentlemen, singing the National Anthem, T. Mychael Rambo. Cordless mic. Our sound people here will appreciate this. Oh, say, cat, see, don't lie. They had not changed the batteries. Here I am in front of tens of thousands of people singing the National Anthem, my first time in front of the president who gave me a fist pound. Do a good job as I'm walking out with Secretary Sibelius and all this.
Okay, yeah.
And I am totally on a jacked up cordless microphone. Thank goodness for NPR and a couple of TV stations because they had good mics from the podium that captured it clearly. But the audience in the Target Center,
The live audience didn't get it, but
but they were so gracious. I love America. I tell you, I travel all over the world. And the one thing I realize is that when I get somewhere else and I hear someone speaking English, I realize I'm closer to home. And as much as culture has created spaces where skin and other things and societal changes, ideas around caste and class and everything, that language makes the difference. Yeah. So anyway, the long and the short is they all sang along with me. Well, so the whole room.
I'm glad you told that story because it's really interesting.
Huh?
And I mentioned in the introduction that you were a vocalist, and so you just explained how you've been a vocalist, how you are a vocalist.
I've had the great pleasure of singing for Jimmy and Rosalynn Carter on 2 occasions. One when they came here for Habitat for Humanity, and another time, both times were for Habitat for Humanity. As we well know, he was an avid supporter.
Sure.
And I've sung at Carnegie Hall and across Europe. I did a piece called Dvorak's Discovery at Carnegie Hall. And who would have thought that, I didn't study music. I don't read music, I don't play an instrument. My singing career came out of a great passion to do what I've always loved doing. And it's something funny that as a kid, they always said, if you don't shut your face, you sound terrible. But I didn't care. And that's what's so beautiful about artists or people who have a passion. If you listen to yourself and listen to your own muse and like you, not worry about other people like you, years went by and I started to like what I was hearing. I kind of agreed. I did sound kind of crappy. But with time, I was like, that's not too bad. And lo and behold, Dale Johnson from the Minnesota Opera found me selling yogurt in a yogurt shop and asked me to come audition for Showboat. And I did. He cast me, and the rest is history.
Well, a wonderful story.
Yeah.
Wonderful story.
Yeah.
I think there was a song a few years ago, a popular song called Express Yourself.
Express Yourself. By the Staple Singers.
T. Mychael, we've got about 2.5 minutes left. And
It's gone so quick. Can we buy some more time?
Well,
time?
if we could buy time, we would buy time,
right,
but we can't buy time. So the second question I wanted to ask, we'll kind of wrap up this session for us. In the experiences that you've had, is there something that was your greatest challenge to get through and to get done? And what was it, and how did you get through it, and what did you learn? And tell me all of that in 2 minutes.
In 2 minutes or less. All right. Well, I know that the role that was most challenging for me is I wrote a piece for Illusion Theater that's now celebrating its 50th anniversary called Silver Tongues, Poison Lies, about the lives of incarcerated people who were incarcerated with HIV or AIDS. I've done a lot of work with HIV and AIDS over the years, and what was gratifying was I got a chance through grants to speak to people who were incarcerated, their loved ones and family members, about the pain that they experienced being incarcerated, imprisoned by something which is a diagnosis that many felt was an imprisoning thing that was like death. And so it was challenging because I had a chance to realize the resiliency and the beauty that people have when they want to live life. And in closing about that, I tell the story of one of the inmates I spoke to who after the end of every day, he would stand when it rained in a puddle, look down at the puddle when it quieted around his feet, and in the puddle, he could see the sky, and he felt like he was free. What a great way to experience freedom.
Yeah. That's a wonderful image.
Oh, isn't that great?
To think about.
Yeah, I mean, that you would wait for the rain to quiet, or the puddles to quiet, and that was his only hour a day that they get, was to look at that puddle of water and think he was flying in the blue, beautiful sky. What a way to find freedom.
T. Mychael, that's going to be a great note for us to go out on. Thank you, T. Mychael Rambo, for being our guest on Access to Democracy.
I appreciate that. It's been a great treat to be a part of this, this moment with you.
We've enjoyed your stories and your
viewers.
experience so much. We're going to have you back because there's a lot more to talk about.
You heard him. He said that, so hold him to it.
And thanks to our viewers for joining us on this episode of Access to Democracy. And remember, there's more Access to Democracy at accesstodemocracy.com. Thanks for watching.